Hi, and welcome to ECCB Connects. Small businesses are the engines of economic growth and activity throughout the world. However, the COVID-19 pandemic has negatively impacted over 80% of small and medium-sized businesses globally. How can small businesses rebound? How can they be repositioned to benefit from the opportunities the pandemic presents? We examine these issues and more in this episode of ECCB Connects. Stay connected with us. We'll share more with you after this message.
I never knew we can travel in the OECS Economic Union with any government ID. Cox coming.
The Organization of Eastern Caribbean States, OECS, in celebration of their 40th anniversary presents OECS For Me, a special check and pêche production.
I got all your shopping. You have your lamb leg, you have your steak, you have salmon, and your caviar. But I forgot the bread. Here's $500 to buy your bread, Iglesia. But I am traveling tomorrow for a meeting in Antigua.
I knew this. You're not going to Antigua without me. I am going by sea calling to get some suitcases.
In your dreams, I am checking your passport.
Saturday, June 12th at 7 p.m. on the OECS YouTube channel.
I love Antigua. Antigua has good food.
And Sunday, June 13th at 3 p.m. on the OECS Facebook page.
Can my partner and I share a table with you?
Sure.
This production is co-funded by the 11th European Development Fund Regional Integration through Growth Harmonization and Technology Right Project.
Thanks for staying connected with us. The recent ECCB Digital Dialogues examined pandemic and small businesses. Governor of the ECCB, Timothy N.J. Antoine, moderated the session. The panel comprised Dr. Sylvia Dohnert, Executive Director, Compete Caribbean; Shadel Nyack Compton, Owner and Managing Director of Belmont Estate, Grenada; and Ashton Fearon, CEO and co-owner of mCAT Innovations, Inc., Antigua and Barbuda. A 2020 publication by OECS titled COVID-19 and Beyond states that almost 60% of the businesses surveyed across the OECS reported a reduction in sales. Close to half have experienced disruptions to their supply of inputs, and almost all experienced some financing constraint. Dr. Dohnert says the way business is done in the Caribbean needs to be revolutionized to improve the business climate.
How we see, the situation of businesses in the Caribbean, tourism, agritourism, and also this potential for technology to really revolutionize the way that we've been doing business, right? So as you know, Compete Caribbean, aside from supporting groups of businesses or innovative firms, also works with governments across the region to improve the business climate. No? And we've been doing that work since the start of the first Compete Caribbean program. And we generally guide ourselves by the doing business indicators, right? Which, as we know, for the Caribbean, there's a lot to improve still in some areas more than others. And really the area that has most to improve is the area of access to finance, right? I think this is, even before the pandemic, it was a big constraint for Caribbean businesses. I think that measures that the ECCB is taking, such as the credit guarantee mechanism, also the credit bureau is going to significantly enhance this. And I also really want to credit you for your digital currency, because I think that digital currency will make, will bring a lot of people within the financial sector. It will make applications such as Fluby, which are very direly needed, even easier to use. And I do think that during the pandemic, what we have seen, not all over the world and also in the Caribbean, is the importance of e-commerce, and on the side of the public sector, the importance of digitalizing public services in order to make it easier both citizen services, but also services for businesses, right? At Compete Caribbean, we're supporting 4 countries in the Eastern Caribbean to improve their business registration, reduce the time that it takes to register a business, which is very long in some countries. And we had started those projects before the pandemic. And, the governments were interested in, and we had made some progress, but we saw such a keen interest when the pandemic hit that those projects have moved much, much faster. Same for example, in Dominica, digitalization of customs operations, which they had done just before the pandemic. And we had helped train customs officer on the new procedures. And that was so important because it meant that during the pandemic, the issues about the supply chain were not as cut as they would have been otherwise. St. Lucia digitalized its tax collection. And, that was very important during the pandemic. But I also want to talk about something else, which is, now that businesses really want to go digital, we do work with a lot of business support organizations in the Eastern Caribbean in how can you support technology adoption and digital technology adoption by businesses in the Caribbean. So this issue about e-commerce, as simple as putting on a website, how do you support online booking? How do you support online payment? I think there's a big road still. It's not clear who the technology providers can be for the Caribbean, but we see a very big demand by businesses and start of a response in terms of businesses coming into the space and making it a lot easier. But I think it will require a lot of support beyond, the market.
The COVID-19 pandemic has pushed small business owners to become more creative and make adjustments to their operations. Business owners Shadel Compton and Ashton Fearon share with us the steps they took to ensure their businesses survive the impact and threat of the pandemic.
We were forced to close the tourism activities in our business for 6 months post-COVID. And we reopened thereafter. Our restaurant is operating only 1 day a week now because our visitor arrivals to Grenada is still so low. Of course, sales plummeted in all departments. And when compared to 2019, we had a decrease of 70% in revenue in our tourism department, 30% in our farm department, and 60% in our manufacturing, like chocolate and the rest. Regarding our human resources, regrettably, we had to release some of our staff, especially those working in the tourism department, because we just did not have the resources or the business operations to continue to employ them. With the loss of labor, it really affected our productivity and our efficiency. And it meant that with the shortage of staff, we had to retrain staff so that our staff can become multi-skilled and adaptable. We also had to look at using virtual employees to help us on certain projects and to get some of our work done. And we still use services of virtual employees even at this time. Of course, the loss of revenue affected our cash flow, and we had to take up the bank's offer for the loan deferral program. And Governor, we have to say thank you to you for your initiative on this, because the banks here in Grenada have really rolled out a very reasonable deferral program and have been working with us as business owners here, especially those in the tourism sector, but I think for all businesses, because most businesses have been affected by this. And I must say that fortunately, our bankers have been very understanding and very agreeable, and they've been working with us to navigate through this process. On the positive side, I would say that the pandemic has forced us to become more creative and innovative and to focus on resilience as part of our business strategy for the future. How can we as companies develop the ability to withstand these unpredictable threats and changes, and how to emerge stronger? And that's a challenge for us.
What our company is really known for is the ticketing events app, which is the first event management platform developed in the Caribbean region. And our premise was very simple. Purchase tickets to all your favorite events and have it delivered to your phone or digital device instantly. No waiting in lines, just get into your FET and have a great time. And while you're having a good time, you could also feel good that you were also being good to the environment, right? We were doing away with paper tickets. What we managed to do over the course of the last 5 years was sort of change the culture of event goers and online sales in general, right? So in effect, we were sort of somewhat preparing them for COVID, all right? When COVID hit, of course, events and entertainment was one of the first industries to be shut down completely. You know, you can't have large crowds gathering. And so we've been hit really hard. And we had to, you know, close our physical offices to minimize costs. And we've been operating on a skeleton budget for well over a year now. There have been no FETs or entertainment events, at least in Antigua and Barbuda, since March of last year. And while the Promoters Association in Antigua has agreed now, you know, just relatively recently, within the last couple of weeks, while they've agreed with our government to a sort of phased restart of the industry, potentially in July of this year, we're only talking about events with a maximum capacity of 300 persons that have to be fully vaccinated. Now, the event industry is one of those industries where everybody can eat a food, right? And you have the barman, the lightsman, the stage man, the decorators, the makeup artists. You know, this is what really keeps the economy going. And even the clothing stores, the nail techs and hairdressers, because when we as Caribbean people are getting ready to FET, everybody is eating a food, right? But with these limited numbers that we're proposing to reopen with, everybody will start to be eating crackers and cheese, all right? In 2019, just before COVID, we were selling thousands of tickets per event. And in early 2020, we had just started expanding to other islands in the region. And so in 2021, and over the course of the pandemic, I don't think I need to tell you what sort of impact that has had for us at this stage. In terms of the adjustments that we've made, I mean, besides starting my own backyard garden, I would have mentioned earlier that our goal as a service provider in the events and entertainment industry was to ensure that our partners would be able to process transactions online without having to pay an external service provider such as PayPal these exorbitant rates and having to wait sometimes as long as 30 days to receive funds. Cash flow, as you can imagine, for these businesses is very important. And so the payment platform that we built and perfected with ticketing over the years put us sort of in a perfect position when COVID started. What we quickly realized was that micro, small, and medium-sized enterprises, just like us, in the hardest parts of the crisis, they still needed a way to continue to do business with all the social distancing protocols still in place. So even some big businesses were not equipped with the technical expertise to take advantage of e-commerce in these times. So we took the opportunity to not only change our business model, but we created an entirely new product. And that's where we decided to launch Fruby, which is a payment platform that makes doing business online across the OECS easy. And so without having any technical expertise, anyone can set up a website, begin selling their products and services in minutes. And even I can now sell some of my produce from my own backyard garden.
The Eastern Caribbean Central Bank is an active player in implementing reforms to improve the business climate in the Eastern Caribbean Currency Union. Governor Antoine says the bank is taking a structured and inclusive approach to these reforms.
We're not merely facilitating this dialogue, but we are in the trenches trying to help make a difference in the business environment. So you mentioned the Partial Credit Guarantee Scheme. October last year, we launched that, which provides a 75% guarantee for small, medium enterprises loans up to $300,000. So a bank or credit union, which is a participating institution, can make a loan and get a guarantee, a loan of $300,000 up to 75% through the Eastern Caribbean Partial Credit Guarantee Scheme. And I'm sure the CEO will be happy to work with other financial institutions which are coming on board. And I got a report very recently, and more financial institutions are coming on board, including some of our development banks. But we want them to move a little faster to be able to make that available to our small businesses. Secondly, of course, you mentioned Dcash, which we rolled out on March 31. And we started in Antigua and Barbuda, Grenada, St. Kitts and Nevis, and St. Lucia. We are now working to launch next month in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Yes, St. Vincent and the Grenadines. We are not running from, we're running to. We want to expedite to help them as they recover from the volcano. And then, of course, we're going to be going to Dominica, Anguilla, and Montserrat. We're also working with our partners, OECS Commission, ECTEL, CARICOM Impacts, and, of course, the World Bank, on a massive project called the Caribbean Digital Transformation Project. It's a $94 million project aimed at internet connectivity, digital skills and jobs, entrepreneurship, digital finance, cybersecurity, data protection. Those are some of the things that we're covering. That project is now live and implementation has begun. And you're going to hear more and more about that project over the next few months, and for the next 3-4 years, we want to make a big impact with that. And then you did mention, Dr. Dohnert, the credit bureau or credit registry. And again, what is the biggest challenge of small businesses? Access to finance. Well, one of the biggest. And we want to make that a lot easier by ensuring that there's a credit bureau that allows essentially responsible lending and responsible borrowing. A lot of financial institutions would do more to extend finance or credit if they had a framework, an infrastructure, such as the credit bureau, to assist them. That exists in advanced economies all over the world. Some of our larger CARICOM countries, we want to bring it to the OECS ECCU soon. And the last thing I'd mention is that we are working, ECCB, with the World Bank on a renewable energy facility. I don't want to say too much on that, but ultimately we want to help bring down the cost of electricity in our region, which is a major issue for small businesses. After labor, it's the electricity cost, typically. And so just to mention, these are some of the things that your central bank is working on for you.
We've come to the end of this episode of ECCB Connects. Thanks for watching, and be sure to join us next week for another exciting program.